Yo, stop everything you're doing right now because what went down on SportsCenter's emergency Knicks coverage is going to completely flip the entire Eastern Conference power structure on its head. And I'm not talking about some preseason overreaction that disappears once real basketball starts. We're talking about Mitchell Robinson posting 7 points and 16 rebounds in just one half of basketball, while looking like the dominant rim runner and glass cleaner that made him one of the league's most impactful centers before injuries derailed everything. We're talking about Miles Deuce McBride dropping 12 points with 3 steals and 5 rebounds in 21 minutes, while shooting 5 for 7 from the field and 2 for 4 from 3, looking like he's made a legitimate developmental leap that has him in the conversation for a starting role. And we're talking about a depth chart so absurdly stacked that the Knicks' 7th man off the bench might legitimately be better than half the league's starters, which is the kind of organizational infrastructure that separates championship contenders from teams that just talk about competing. When Scott Van Pelt started breaking down the film from the Sixers game in Abu Dhabi, and the entire SportsCenter panel realized that New York just solved every single roster construction question that's been plaguing them all off-season, I literally had to pause my coffee because this wasn't just a good preseason performance where guys looked in shape and hit some shots. This was a championship blueprint revealing itself in real time, with Mike Brown's offensive system creating the kind of ball movement and pace that unlocks everyone's best attributes, with Mitchell Robinson proving he's fully healthy and capable of being the starting center that anchors everything defensively, with Deuce McBride showing he's not just a solid backup point guard, but potentially a high-level starter who makes everyone around him better through his two-way impact. So I'm watching SportsCenter right as they're setting up their Knicks segment during the afternoon broadcast, and suddenly the entire show shifts into emergency analysis mode, because the implications of what happened in that preseason opener are so massive that it requires immediate breakdown from every possible angle. Stan Verrett is on screen pulling up the box score and the advanced metrics, and you can see him doing the math in real time, trying to figure out how any Eastern Conference team is supposed to match up against a rotation that goes 10 deep with legitimate NBA talent at every position. When you've got Mitchell Robinson starting and absolutely dominating the glass with 16 rebounds in just 24 minutes, then bringing Josh Hart off the bench as your 6th or 7th man, despite him being a player who was in legitimate 6th Man of the Year conversations before the Karl Anthony Towns trade, followed by former 6th Man of the Year award winners in Jordan Clarkson and Malcolm Brogdon, providing additional scoring punch and playmaking, you're not just building depth for the sake of having bodies available. You're creating an organizational infrastructure that can sustain excellence across an entire grueling 82-game regular season where injuries happen, fatigue accumulates, and teams that rely too heavily on their top 5 players inevitably break down when the playoffs arrive and everyone's banged up. This is the exact blueprint that the 2014 Spurs used to dismantle Miami, that the 20-20 Lakers employed during their championship run with deep playoff rotations, that every recent title team has demonstrated is absolutely essential in the modern NBA, where depth and versatility matter more than ever before. Let me paint you the complete picture of what really transpired during this absolutely electric SportsCenter segment. Because the surface-level Knicks looked good in preseason narrative that you're hearing everywhere on social media, and from casual fans who didn't actually watch the game, completely misses the psychological warfare component, the schematic evolution that Mike Brown is implementing, the individual player development breakthroughs that suggest guys spent the summer working on real weaknesses, and the harsh reality that New York just showed the entire league exactly what this roster is capable of when everyone's healthy and the system is humming at full capacity. This isn't about one preseason game producing inflated statistics against a Sixers squad that wasn't trying very hard. This is about organizational philosophy crystallizing into actual on-court execution that reveals championship DNA. Here's the foundational revelation that had the entire SportsCenter panel, including analysts like Stephen A. Smith, Michael Wilbon, and Kendrick Perkins, who cover the league comprehensively and understand roster construction at the highest level, nodding in complete agreement. Mitchell Robinson has to start at center for this team, and there's no longer any legitimate debate about it, regardless of what lineup configurations Mike Brown experiments with during the regular season. Robinson played just one half of basketball, logged 24 minutes total, and put up 7 points with 16 rebounds, including 5 offensive boards that led directly to second-chance opportunities and completely changed possessions that would have otherwise ended with defensive stops for Philadelphia. That's not just good production from a role player having a nice game. That's absolutely dominant center play that fundamentally changes the entire complexion of how opposing teams have to defend New York, because they can no longer just focus on preventing first-chance opportunities. When you've got a center who's grabbing 1 out of every 3 missed shots on the offensive glass, defenses have to commit extra bodies to boxing out, which creates spacing and driving lanes for perimeter players. When you've got a rim runner who's finishing lobs and putbacks at an elite rate, defenses can't help off their man as aggressively because the price for miscommunication is an automatic 2 points at the rim. Stephen A. Smith was going absolutely ballistic during his segment of the breakdown, and when Stephen A. gets this animated about roster construction and lineup optimization rather than just player drama or hot takes, you know there's genuine substance worth examining. He was making this point about how Mitchell Robinson starting at center completely solves the Karl-Anthony Towns positional dilemma that everyone's been wringing their hands over all summer long. If Robinson starts at the 5 and dominates for 28-30 minutes per game while staying healthy, then Towns can slide to the 4, where he's most comfortable offensively, where he can face up and shoot over smaller defenders, where he doesn't have to bang with traditional centers in the post and risk foul trouble. Suddenly, you've got elite shooting at the power forward spot. Towns is a career 40% three-point shooter on high volume who can stretch defenses to the logo, combined with legitimate rim protection from Robinson, who alters shots, blocks attempts, and most importantly, provides that vertical spacing as a lob threat that creates gravity in the paint. That's a championship-level front-court pairing that can match up with anyone in the league, whether you're facing Joel Embiid and the Sixers, where you need Robinson's shot blocking to protect the rim, or Giannis and the Bucks, where you need Towns' floor spacing to prevent help defense from collapsing, or even the Celtics' switching scheme, where having 2 bigs who can operate differently gives you tactical flexibility. But here's where the depth discussion got absolutely insane during the segment, and this is what had Michael Wilbon literally shaking his head in disbelief at how stacked this roster has become compared to what the Knicks had just 2 years ago when they were fighting for play-in positioning. If Mitchell Robinson is your starting center playing 28-30 minutes per night, that means Josh Hart, a player who was literally in serious consideration for 6th Man of the Year during the first half of last season before the Karl-Anthony Towns trade, forced him into the starting lineup, is now coming off the bench as your 6th or 7th man, depending on how rotations shake out on any given night. Think about what that means from a competitive standpoint. Your backup rotation features a guy who could start for 20-plus teams in this league, who plays with championship-level intensity every single possession, who can guard multiple positions, who crashes the glass from the wing position, who makes winning plays that don't show up in the box score. Then you've got Miles Deuce McBride, who just went 5 for 7 from the field, with 2 for 4 from 3 while playing 21 minutes in this preseason opener, looking like he's made a legitimate developmental leap over the summer that has him firmly in the conversation for either a starting role or being the primary backup ball handler who can run the offense when Jalen Brunson sits. The statistical profile they showed during the segment was legitimately eye-opening. 12 points, 3 steals, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, and he was all over the floor making hustle plays, diving for loose balls, providing on-ball pressure defensively that created turnovers, and transition opportunity. That's not just a solid backup performance, that's starting caliber production from a 25-year-old who's getting better every single year and is now in his prime athletic window. Then you've got Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench, a proven microwave scorer who's won 6th Man of the Year and can get you 15-18 points in 22-25 minutes whenever you need instant offense to maintain or extend leads when starters rest. Then Malcolm Brogdon, another former 6th Man of the Year winner who brings championship experience, can run an offense as a secondary playmaker, shoots 40% from 3 for his career, and most importantly, has that veteran savvy to manage games and make the right reads against second units. Then Gershon Yabusele, who showed during the Olympics that he's a legitimate NBA rotation player who can stretch the floor, provide physicality in the post, and even function as a small ball 5 in certain matchups when you want to go ultra-modern with 5-out spacing. The two-man lineup data that got pulled up during the Sports Center segment was absolutely damning for anyone still arguing that Josh Hart should start over Deuce McBride. And this is where advanced analytics meet the eye test in perfect harmony to tell the same story from different angles. The graphics department pulled up all the relevant combinations from last season's data, and the results were so lopsided that it almost looked like a mistake until you realized these are real numbers from actual NBA games across a full season sample size. When Deuce McBride played alongside Jalen Brunson last season, they posted a net rating of +6.9, which is excellent for any two-man combination, but especially impressive when you consider Brunson is already an all-star who makes everyone better. Josh Hart alongside Brunson, just +1.3, which is barely above replacement level, and suggests the fit isn't nearly as complimentary. Deuce with Michael Bridges, +9.1 net rating, which is borderline elite and indicates that the defensive versatility and shooting gravity they create together is extremely difficult for opposing teams to handle. Hart with Bridges, +3.5, which is fine, but nowhere near the same level of synergy. Deuce alongside Karl Anthony Towns, +10.3 net rating, which makes sense because McBride's on-ball pressure and ability to get into the paint creates opportunities for Towns to spot up, operate in space, and punish defenses for helping. Hart with Towns, +6.6, which again is acceptable but not spectacular. And here's the most damning comparison. Deuce with OG Anunoby posted a +111, 6 net rating, which is championship-level production, and suggests those two together form one of the most effective wing combinations in basketball when you factor in their defensive versatility and offensive complementary skill. Hart with OG, +2.7, which is basically mediocre, and raises questions about whether their skill sets overlap too much, rather than complementing each other. Every single meaningful two-man combination across the starting lineup shows Deuce producing significantly better results than Hart, and that's not a small sample size statistical quirk that disappears over time. That's systematic evidence accumulated over an entire season that McBride's specific skill set complements the starters better than Hart's does from a spacing, defensive, and ball movement perspective. Hart is still an excellent player who will play major minutes and could easily win 6th Man of the Year if he fully embraces that role. But the data strongly suggests the optimal configuration has him coming off the bench, where his rebounding and energy can provide a spark against second units, rather than playing alongside 4 other starters, where there might be diminishing return. The Mike Brown offensive system implementation discussion became a major subplot during the extended Sports Center coverage, because the film clips they showed demonstrated exactly what Knicks fans have been hoping for and dreaming about since he got hired to replace Tom Thibodeau. The pace is noticeably up compared to last season's plodding half-court sets. The ball movement is crisp and purposeful, rather than stagnant isolation plays. Players are getting quality shots within the flow of the offense in the first 10 seconds of possessions rather than grinding through 20 seconds of dribbling and settling for contested looks. And most importantly, everyone looks comfortable and confident within the structure rather than confused about their role. There was this absolutely beautiful sequence they showed where Deuce McBride received the ball on the wing, immediately attacked his defender off the dribble using a hesitation move and change of pace that he apparently picked up from studying Jalen Brunson film all summer, blew past his man with a quick first step, and then found Malcolm Brogdon cutting to the basket for his first bucket as a Knick. The entire possession from catch to finish took place in just 8 seconds, which is exactly the kind of offensive philosophy that wins championships in the modern NBA, generating quality looks quickly in transition or early offense, rather than burning clock and settling for contested shots late in possessions when defenses are fully set and can load up. That pace and space philosophy is what made the 2014 Spurs beautiful to watch, what allowed the Warriors dynasty to overwhelm opponents before they could adjust, what enabled the 2020 Lakers to dominate despite not having elite shooting across the board. When you can consistently generate advantages early in possession and make quick decisions that put pressure on rotating defenses, you create way more open looks than teams that methodically work the clock and allow defenses to get comfortable in their scheme. Here's what really emerged from the entire SportsCenter marathon coverage that I think captures why the rest of the NBA should genuinely be terrified of what they just witnessed. This Knicks team is significantly deeper and more talented than the conference finals squad that went toe-to-toe with Indiana while playing only 7 guys and dealing with catastrophic injuries to key rotation players. They now have a coach in Mike Brown who's better suited for this specific roster's strengths. They have championship-level depth that goes legitimately 10-12 players deep, with guys who could contribute meaningful minutes. And they've apparently solved every single lineup construction question and positional debate through one preseason game that revealed the optimal configuration. If Mitchell Robinson starts at center and stays healthy, if Deuce McBride becomes the 6th man, or even pushes for a starting spot, if the bench rotation features multiple former award winners who can maintain leads and keep games competitive when starters rest, there literally isn't a team in the Eastern Conference that can match this talent top to bottom. The Knicks just became finals favorite, and it might not even be particularly close.